Good morning and welcome to Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition, right here on 92.9 KVRE and streaming online at kvre.com and on iHeartRadio. With Tracy Simpson, I'm Mark Oliver. Tracy, hope you had a great vacation this week. Big week in sports. How was your week this week?
Absolutely exciting, marvelous, and all the other accolades you want to go with it. But boy, oh boy, you're right. There are a lot of tough times for some of the teams that didn't make it in, like we were talking in some of these playoffs, but then some exciting teams for some newbies, so to speak. But action going on. We're really starting to feel the NCAA basketball teams going, and stuff. And, it's exciting times. So you talk about a lot of emphasis on when you're sitting on a deer stand, you can really just start to think about things in sports and stuff because you don't have any Wi-Fi.
Just a man and his thoughts in the wilderness.
It's what it was, man. But it was great to catch up on things. But, Mark, we've talked about this, some 11, 12 weeks ago about some of the teams that we thought in this area was going to make playoffs, and we thought some that should and some that probably wouldn't. And then we boiled it down to also talking about the SEC and the joining of Texas and Arkansas and a rivalry again. And you mix in that with Oklahoma and now the SEC sort of looking on the outside of the bubble and some games coming up. So we got a lot of excitement. We're narrowing it down, and then we start talking about the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right, Tracy. So much going on in the world of sports right now, except for baseball, really, which just wrapped up.
Yeah.
But so much to talk about, and I'm glad you brought up college football because that is exactly where we're going to begin with this week's show. Big game up on the hill today. The 8-1 Texas Longhorns, the 5-4 Arkansas Razorbacks in Fayetteville. Tracy, look, I think morale is not very high for Arkansas at this point in the season. A lot of injuries, a lot of coulda, shoulda, woulda. Had some games that you were in, faded in the second half, wish you could have got back. But I'll tell you right now, after a bye week, sometimes the revival of an intense rivalry, and I mean an intense rivalry, may be what you need to bring that spark of excitement back to the stadium. Because Tracy, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm not an Arkansas Razorbacks fan, but even not as a Hogs fan, it's easy to see. I think there's a legitimate hatred between these two teams as they battle as conference opponents once again. The rivalry is as old as the first photograph of Pluto and the first transcontinental telephone call between New York and San Francisco, 1915 to 1991. The Hogs and Longhorns faced off as foes in the Southwest Conference, and now they are back as conference opponents again in the SEC. I know this is a matchup that you've been looking forward to all season long.
No, there's no doubt about that. When you talk burnt orange, well, you just don't talk about it, to be honest with you. And even, with the suspect of Tennessee Vols, the orange, but it's not like burnt orange. It's just that simple. And you can call it looking back at the shootout, or some folks don't go back that far and everything else. But the old Southwest Conference days, Texas dominated everything. It's just that simple. I mean, and it was, you just didn't go into Austin and win a game. It was just that simple. And even on the road, hey, and you talk about the Cotton Bowl, well, we talk about Texas. It's right there. But as it is right now, things have changed a little bit. SEC, well, a little bit on the ship. They're one of the strongest conferences in the course of the United States. But even with that, the joining of Texas, everybody thought maybe they'd lose some of their shine. Well, they haven't lost any shine. That's for certain. And today, not only with a win could Razorbacks get back in the topic of bowl appearance, but also maybe saving somebody's job.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you mentioned, the new look SEC, and to go along with that is really the new look Big Ten. It's at the expense of other conferences, right, across America. But you're seeing that consolidation, you're seeing that shift, and you're seeing, I think, that merging of talent together where you renew these rivalry matchups, you put these two juggernauts together. I had an opportunity to listen to some of the pregame coaches' interviews this week. Steve Sarkisian says that he thinks that, quote, Arkansas fans hate Texas more than they like themselves. And Sam Pittman responded with, he's probably right. And while things were kind of cordial and a little civil between the coaches, I guess you could say, about this matchup, obviously on paper, this is one that Arkansas really wants to win. You mentioned Texas's dominance, 56-23 all time in the series, but the Razorbacks have won 4 of the last 6, including a 40-21 victory back in 2021. Texas was number 15 in the nation when that happened. Sarkisian was the coach of that squad when that happened. You think they're going to be looking for a little bit of revenge against a Razorback team that's maybe not as ripe as usual at this point in the season? Absolutely. So as we look at this game, what are some of the key factors coming into this game? I think first, you got to start with quarterback play. For Arkansas, it starts with Taylen Green, listed as probable for the game. You know, Green reportedly sprained his knee during that loss to Ole Miss back in early November. He had the bye week to rest up, but will Green be healthy enough to face off and defeat the number 3 team in the country?
Well, not only the number 3 team, but hey, look, here's the biggest thing about it is their Texas defense is one of the top ones, and the bookends they've got playing on their D line is something that's going to rattle. Of course, Ole Miss did it, LSU did it, and that's the key. You've got to keep Green inside the pocket if he even plays. Our backup, well, he's so-so. He just doesn't have enough reps in his repertoire to be able to come out and make a showing. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope they make it a game, win, lose, or draw. I just hope it's a game, because if you look back in the history of 11 o'clock kickoffs, Razorbacks don't do real well.
No, they don't.
It's just not there. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if it's because they didn't get to go out and tailgate with everybody else or what the situation is, but you know the Longhorns are coming in not only thinking of a W here, but they're thinking about the playoff picture, the seeding, and winning the SEC, because when you do that, then you, of course, got the better, seeding on that. So this game is not only just about Arkansas and Texas rivalry. This is about a national championship. And for Arkansas to come in and take this W, they are just going to have to play well above what we've seen them play in the last couple of games, because something's got to give. I don't know if it's whether it's Pittman's all-around coaching or if it's maybe our offense or definitely the defense, because Texas scores a lot of points, and their defense is stingy. And I don't care if they're playing Razorback Red or they're playing on Pluto like you were talking about. Texas don't care. They'll go anywhere and play.
I think Arkansas, obviously they should not be favored coming into this game. I think that's fine. But I think that Arkansas has a decent chance in this game at home. Of course, what they did against Tennessee shows that this team is absolutely capable. Running and gunning with Oklahoma State early in the season, this is a team that's capable. I mentioned Taylen Green, and whether or not he's 100%, even if he's not 100%, or even if he can't go the full contest, Malachi Singleton has been anything but bad in relief this year. He's thrown 21 of 28 in the passing game, 358 yards, had a score of 74 yards on the ground, 3 rushing scores this season. He can get it done. I know that he's, kind of the greener one in terms of experience, but, whoever, I would say, regardless of who lines up at quarterback, I think the biggest impact player of this game is actually going to be a wide receiver, senior wide receiver Andrew Armstrong. He's going to need to have a big game to keep pace with the Longhorns' high-powered offense, yes, but against AP top 25 teams this season, Armstrong averages almost 16 yards per reception and is likely to go over 1,000 yards receiving on the season in this game. Jaquindon Jackson is also back after missing 2 games with an ankle injury, and just like I've said, every single week, and I'll say it every single week for the rest of the season, the Hogs' running game is extremely important if this team is going to win the football game, especially if you go out early, hit them in the mouth, and take their early lead. Now, defensively, the Hogs are less than 100% in the secondary as well. Jalen Braxton was ruled out for the contest. The Razorbacks will need to be able to defend the pass, and how well they do that in his absence might dictate how the football game falls as a whole.
Well, but Texas have, they're 2 and 3 deep at every position. They're healthy right now. Of course, they've got a few nicks, dings here or there, but everybody's got those at this time of the year. Everybody's concerned about the Razorback secondary. Not only the coach, but everybody's concerned about it. They've given up way too many yards. even on the short, the yaks that you talk about all the time, that they just can't give it up. No tackling whatsoever. And you know that's one of my biggest pet peeves is tackling. They just don't do it anymore, and it's really surprising their turnover ratio. They don't have it. Now, don't get me wrong. They come out and they'll spectacular in one game, and the next thing you know, they're giving up 500 yards, and you just can't have that. And I think that Texas, they're one of the most well-balanced teams, whether it's running the ball or passing the ball. You don't know what they're going to do, and so once again, Mark, on paper, I mean, they're 2.5 touchdowns favored.
They are.
And it's going to be something that if they come up there and they establish the run game right away, then the lights are out already. We've got to hold. I think the key is going to be our defensive line. If our line comes in there and shuts down and they have to go to the pass, then we can go into, a Tampa 2 or a prevent, defense as far as our secondary is concerned, because they need help. They need 7 guys back there. And boy, I tell you what, it's all the key right now. You know how they did it against, Tennessee and a couple other teams? They could not run the ball whatsoever. We had the most sacks during that game. Since then, a little lackluster. But if we do not stop the run right away, it is going to be a long day for the Razorbacks and for the Razorback fans.
Of course, as we take a look at the AP Top 25 standings, there's been quite the shakeup since we've looked at the list last, Tracy. Anybody that really stands out to you as a big surprise at this point in the season?
I've been following this bandwagon all year long, Mark. You've heard me talk about Indiana.
Oh, yes.
You've heard, hey, you know what? And I know Michigan had a little lackluster of a year so far, but anytime you beat Indiana team, we're talking Hoosiers, okay? Not basketball, not a round ball, an oblong ball. And, Bobby Knight's not out there coaching. They're the real deal. And they've went into Michigan and just did what they had to do as far as getting the W. But when you beat the Big Blue, hey, that's something special. And are they they got a rest period this weekend, but they're going to be able to come back. Buckeyes that's going to be the telltale right there. And this could be a season that could be, more. Hey, look, you think of Indiana, once again, it's basketball territory.
You think of it as a basketball school.
But for them, you heard me talking about them when they were 5-0, now 10-0, one of the unbeaten teams around the region. It's going to be a something special, a Cinderella story all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, when you have 4 Big Ten teams in the top 5, they are going to start beating each other up just a bit there. And that Indiana-Ohio State game, I think, is going to be a really big factor there. If I'm Ohio State, I think I'm shaking in my boots on that one, just to be honest with you.
No
that's
doubt.
my early prediction, because that team that's red hot and people are like, wait, what are they doing here? Who are these guys? We're not playing basketball or playing football. Those are the kind of teams as a coach I'm worried about, because there's got to be something in the water down in Hoosier country. And, you got to keep a close eye on a team that's red hot like that.
Mark, you and I talked about this at the first season. The AP poll, okay? These polls come out. Look, they had 7 of the 10 teams from the SEC. Now where are they at? And you and I talked about this 10 weeks ago, that throw these out, throw these picks, these votes from everybody else, throw them out the window, because I guarantee you this is all going to change at the end of the year. And sure enough, has it changed? Oh, has it changed?
Oh, it really has. Of course, there's some unbeaten teams. Of course, Oregon #1, as we all expect, but the Surgeons of Indiana 10-0, and then you've got BYU hanging in the 7th spot at 9-0 this year. Miami, I know, taking its first loss in heartbreaking fashion, but sitting at 9-1. There are so many teams in this top 12 right now. Of course, we have that expansion. 12 teams are going to play for the national championship, but there are so many teams. Even with the expansion, I think there's so many good football teams that are not going to make that top 12 cut. There's going to be a lot of controversy, a lot of disagreements, a lot of arguing, and there may even be some picks that I really am not in favor of that either make it or are ending up sitting at home at the end of this thing. But I have to keep telling myself, I still believe that this top 12 ranking is good for the game of college football.
Oh, no doubt. No, a double elimination. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. You're right. Outside looking in, you're looking at a team. Army. I mean, come on, really?
Yeah,
Army?
exactly.
And hey, they're undefeated. Now, will they be when it's all decision time making it? I don't know, but you're going to have some teams that are going to have 2 losses. They're going to be in front of them.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well,
all of Florida State, and I mean, this year they didn't come back and do anything, but hey, you're undefeated and you don't make it into the playoffs.
yeah, you're sitting at number 16 in the nation right now, undefeated. Feels a little disrespectful.
No.
Hey, and I've seen teams be in that position before where they don't get the respect that maybe they think that they deserve. So the only way that you can really stick it to the man is to go out and keep winning football games.
That's it. That's the bottom line right there. But decisions will be made after today, but I hope the Razorbacks come out fighting, but it's going to be a tough one.
We have so much more to talk about on this week's show. Stick with us right here on Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition on 92.9 KVRE and online at kvre.com.
Second quarter coming up.
And we're back, quarter number 2 here on Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition on 92.9 KVRE. He's Tracy Simpson. I'm Mark Oliver. Tracy, time to check back in with the National Football League. It's week 11. Rivalry week is here, and it's time to see who some of the big dogs are right now. But before we talk about some big matchups this week, me and my family sat down and watched Broncos Chiefs last Sunday.
Oh,
and my kids, let me tell you something. My kids were about to go full nuclear because they were about to lose to a very subpar Denver Broncos team. Let's be honest with you. I really thought the Chiefs were finally going to get that first loss of the season. And then the plot armor, Tracy, the plot armor is so thick and it holds, and I could not believe it. The Chiefs miraculously block the game-winning field goal to remain undefeated. Same story, different week, right? As we get over the hump into the second half of the season, I know a lot of people are out there are either like, A, we really are tired of hearing about the Chiefs. B, is this team ever going to lose? And C, if so, when?
Well, you've heard me talk about this time and time again. There's 3 phases of football: offense, defense, and special teams. And people forget about the special teams of the Kansas City Chiefs, and they've got one of the best coaches around for that. You've not only seen him now block that, but also run back punts to win a game. You've seen him actually do real well, even on the new kickoff formations, which is crazy. But they are really good at all 3 phases. And then when you throw the likes of Mahomes and some other trick plays that he always comes out with, whether you like him or dislike him, hey, look, he's one of the best around, could be one of the best when it's all said and done. I'm not going to put him up there with Brady yet, but he's got that knack of getting out of situations. For all you old school people, I compare him a lot with Roger Staubach. Just when you think they've got him, no, he's out of it and throwing a touchdown or running for the first down and then getting ready to score again. But, Mark, look, when the teams are good, whether you're a Kansas City fan or not, people get the dislike phase going. And it doesn't matter to me because I really like their coach. Andy Reid's one of the best coaches I like.
Yeah, I agree.
I cannot stand Philadelphia. I mean, absolutely. Even when he was there, I mean, the guy was top notch. He didn't belong in Philadelphia. So, you know what? They booed him out of there.
Yeah, the fans ran him out.
And guess what? Yeah, look who's crying now. And I know y'all won a Super Bowl up there, but now look what you're doing. And they may win it again this year, but they haven't proved that against the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So for what it's worth, they're still one of the best teams around. And I never thought that I'd be saying the AFC was stronger than the NFC. I never thought I'd say that.
It is kind of starting to look like that right now.
Yeah, it is.
The Chiefs are 9-0 on the season. Miraculously, you can. I know there's the cult following that believes that the refs are rigging the games for the Chiefs. Well,
they are.
I mean, I mean, the Denver game didn't do anything to squash that thought. I guess I still think that's a crazy take, just to be honest with you.
Guy was offsides.
Stop it.
He was, man. I mean, he was offside.
Listen, I read a really interesting article on ESPN.com this week asking, is Kansas City the worst 9-0 team of all time? That's an interesting take right there because, yeah, there's been some miraculous comebacks and some games that, boy, I don't know how they pulled it out because they just played abysmal in those games, and this Denver game was one of them. Now, you got to give credit to Denver because it's a young defensive core, but it's actually a pretty strong defensive core, and Bo Nix looked pretty good for what he was able to do there, but the running game for Denver was really what helped flourish and get them over the top. The field goals were there. They just didn't happen to get it. I guess, I don't know, jitters, I don't know, pressure situation. I think it was really just good defense on special teams there to to block the kick, to be honest with you. But let's start the discussion. They're 9-0. No team ever has went 17-0 in the regular season, and now we start having that discussion. Could the Chiefs be the first team to do that? Let's look at the schedule. So to start off the list, probably the biggest challenge to the Chiefs on the schedule happens this Sunday, hefty competition Sunday at Buffalo. But after the Bills, it's Carolina, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Browns, home game versus Houston, which could be challenging. They're at Pittsburgh on Christmas Day, could be a challenge. And there's a flex date at Denver to be determined after that. Do the Chiefs fall at Buffalo Sunday? Big game there, huge rivalry matchup. Or do they fall somewhere else down the line? Or is this truly the first team that will go 17-0 to break the regular season record?
I don't think Miami's got anything to worry about. Go ahead and get your champagne out and your cigars. I don't think, and I know that was lesser games back in those days, and it's a challenge to go 17-0, but I don't see that. The Pittsburghs of the world may have something to say about that. Even Houston, although they look a little lackluster every once in a while. For some reason, though, they've always had Buffalo's number. It's just that simple. They've always had it.
Especially in high-intensity playoff situations, yes. And this one certainly feels like a playoff competition as well. Buffalo's 8-2 on the season. Kansas City 9-0 on the season. Both of these teams are going to absolutely run away with their divisions, and they've pretty much already locked up a playoff spot, if you ask me, looking at their schedules. But at Buffalo, I know the Bills really want to hand that first L to Andy Reid this season.
Oh, well, no doubt about that. And of all things, Josh does. He's just, they've had his number. Interceptions time and time again when really, Kansas City's defense is good, but they're not great. They just managed to pull off some W's, but they just can't keep Mahomes keyed down. I mean, they just can't keep him. And it's just that simple. And Buffalo has a way of just giving those games up. I don't know what it is, but they're going to obviously do their best. But for some reason, I still look down the road. The Pittsburghs of the world with the resurging Wilson. That's he's finally got his groove going on, so to speak. He's made the connection with the rest of the players there, and they're looking pretty stiff right now. And, of course, that coach's team's always had great defense, always. You go back to the steel curtain and everything, but it's just that much better when Wilson can relax a little bit and not have to, depend on his offense doing everything. And I tell you, if there's a coach out there that could probably maybe get into Andy Reid's head, it would be Pittsburgh.
Maybe Mike Tomlin.
Tomlin's one of the best.
Words right out of my
mouth. He's one
of
the best in the world. I mean, ever. I mean, he's just that good.
This is a coach that took a chance on Justin Fields from the Bears,
right.
Russell Wilson from the middling Broncos, and put them together, and now they look like superstars in the right system, right? And, of course, it's not just the quarterback play that's getting it done, because the quarterback play, while it's helped win games, is not the reason solely that this team is winning games. Remember, Pittsburgh eked it into the playoffs on the last game of the season last year, and now they look like they're going to win the AFC North. However, I talked about rivalry week. We're here. Pittsburgh hosts the Baltimore Ravens this Sunday. This is a big matchup. 7-3 Baltimore, 7-2 Pittsburgh. Huge matchup there. Huge rivalry. Two teams that absolutely hate each other. Another big rivalry game. Green Bay is at Chicago. Seattle is at San Francisco. Houston is at Dallas. Out of these rivalry matches this week, and I guess you could even throw Kansas City Buffalo into the mix, although it's not necessarily a regional rivalry or an in-conference rivalry. Which game stands out to you as a must-watch?
Well, obviously the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game, I think, because we're talking about the top dogs in all their conferences and divisions and such, and I believe we're going to see. Now, Pittsburgh's got the number one defense in all the NFL right now, okay? We're going to see if it's really that good. They've played some real good teams, but they haven't played the likes. Of course, we know what the MVP can do. And the defense, like you were saying, is helping out Wilson, and of course, come on strong. But that's going to be the key right now to find out if this defense is really that good. And if they play that well against, I don't want to say it, Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl again, but if there's any team that can beat Kansas City, we'll stay with that. But if there's any team in a must-watch game, I think it's definitely Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I think that's going to be one of the key matchups because you're out there. Chicago sort of lost a little bit of their shine. And, well, Green Bay they're sneaking up there, believe it or not.
Both teams looking to snap losing streaks this week.
Right. So,
and of course, Chicago literally just cleaned house offensively, firing its offensive coordinator, bringing in some fresh meat, I guess you could say. But, as a Bears fan myself, I'm not feeling very confident. I think the team is finally returning to earth, which unfortunately also means the cellar in the NFC North. And unless something major happens with this shakeup in the front office, I don't have very high hopes for recovering in a very strong division this year.
No, and that's the only reason I called that the key game, Baltimore-Pittsburgh, because I think Kansas City obviously has Buffalo's number. I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong in that one. But none of the other games really match up. Even going to Monday night's game, we know what. And until Jerry quits coaches in Dallas, we're just not going to have a whole lot there. Now, we saw what Dak's backup can do. Not a lot.
Yeah.
But last year, that 4-5 record that he had when Dak got hurt again, by the way.
Right.
But maybe I just don't think he has the support, so I don't think that's much of a game.
Hey, but Dak got that bag, by the way,
Boy,
right?
Did he? Yeah. Yeah. Is he sharing it with anybody? No,
Of course not.
He's building a new house right now, believe it or not.
Yeah.
They say it's only worth about $40 million. Imagine that. But anyway, as it is,
I bet it has a really nice couch to sit on too.
Well, that probably need something else in there besides that. But anyway, we won't go there. But I think that's one of the key. There's not a lot of excitement in the games this weekend, as far as I'm seeing, because as it is right now, the divisions, like you were talking about earlier, most of them are already wrapped up. I mean, they already are. Even if they lose out, they're still going to make the playoffs, which we saw last year. Sub 500 teams make the playoffs, so we'll see what happens,
You still will probably see that in a couple of divisions, namely the NFC West, I think. And the NFC South is surprisingly kind of still up for grabs, with Tampa Bay kind of hanging around, and some changes in the Saints front office as well. So, hey, somebody can get hot at the right time and make a run, but right now it doesn't really look like that might happen.
No, not at all. I think that some of these teams, and I'm going to go back a little bit. Chicago, how can you be this late in the season and let people go? I don't understand that, and expect to come and try to win any more games.
You got to do something, Tracy, because they haven't scored a touchdown in something like 17 consecutive drives.
Is that the head coach, or is that just the personnel? I mean, think about that. I mean, I know everything, the buck stops here, so to speak, but even that, I mean, sometimes you got to look below, the head coach and see what's going on. Just change things up a little bit. But boy, did they change things up. That's for certain.
Well, I hope that it transitions into something good for the Bears going forward. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we'll talk more sports here on Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition on 92.9 KVRE, streaming online at kvre.com.
Third quarter coming up.
And we're back, Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition on 92.9 KVRE and online at kvre.com. With Tracy Simpson, I'm Mark Oliver. Time to turn the tables a little bit here for quarter number 3. National Park College Nighthawk Athletics has had another big week here in Hot Springs and on the road as well. Tracy, first on Monday, I had to change hats a little bit. I was a filmmaker on Monday. The premiere.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Stay Down, a Championship Story is officially out. The 47-minute documentary highlighting NPC men's basketball historic run to the Division II men's basketball national championship last year. It was a packed crowd on Monday on Veterans Day in the Isley Auditorium in the Frederick Dirks Center for Nursing and Health Sciences at NPC. Great reception there, and of course, great turnout. The movie is on YouTube now. If you weren't able to attend the premiere in person, you can search National Park College on YouTube to find it. But then, of course, the Nighthawk men's basketball team was there, and we walked across the parking lot over into the Kettle, where NPC took care of Central Baptist College for the second time in a week, defeating the Mustangs 100-78. Nighthawks look really strong this year under Coach Dion Hargrove, 3-1 as of this recording. Still number 16 in the nation. The Week 1 rankings have come out this week from the NJCAA, and they felt that that National Park College stays put right in that number 16 spot.
Well, and rightly so. It's a little tough after you have such a spectacular year. But you come back, and of course, you got a target on your back. It's just that simple. But hey, whether you want to call it a rebuilding year or whatever, he's got some key players in there. And it's just like any coach in an early season, you're trying to figure out, your front five and the bench and everything else. So, hey, look, if anybody can do it, of course, he's proven as a coach that he can do it else places. But, he's familiar with these kids. He knows what it's all about, and he can get it done. We're sad to lose our other, old coach, but he's off to greener grass, for him. But as it is right now, I think they'll prove their point and come back and be strong, not only in this, but in some runnings down the road and some tournaments. But big congratulations on the spectacular. I viewed it with my boys, and man, oh man, Mark, it was something really spectacular, and congratulations to you on that.
Yeah, you got a lot of positive reception this week from it, and the texts and the phone calls continue to keep coming in. Hey, a lot of passion, a lot of love went into that project, so I'm glad that it was well received by the community, not only locally, but worldwide as well. As you look at this Nighthawk men's basketball team, they're led by Shamir Carruthers. He's a sophomore guard out of Rochester, New York, and a couple of really big men out there, honestly, that have come in and do some really big things. Daniel Smith is a young man that's come over from London, England. He's our first international men's basketball player at NPC, and anytime he gets the ball, it's literally just drops it into the net. He's that tall. He's almost 7 feet tall, just drops it right on in. And I had a chance to, he came over and we chatted a little bit after the game, and I just kept looking up at him. I'm like, man, this guy is literally more than a foot taller than me. Yeah. And just made me feel so small as a man, as a grown man, made me feel super, super small. Another rising star in that game against CBC was a young man named Randy Emerson. He's from Pine Bluff, a former Zebra. He made his way in a big breakout game. He hit 5 3-pointers off the bench, really coming into his own. He actually led the team in scoring in that win with 20 points. And even though it's a roster of mainly new faces, Coach Dion Hargrove, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, or maybe the tree doesn't fall far from the apple, I guess. The winning formula is still there. It's still the same formula. It's new faces, but it's proving to work so far. Still, one loss on the season early. Okay, you're not going to go 27-0 every single year, but I think the NJCAA sees what's brewing in the kettle and says, you know what, even with one loss, this team still deserves to be in the top 20. And of course, as we turn the tables and look at Nighthawk women's basketball, Tracy, I've been telling some people this really since before the season began. Nighthawk women's basketball had to end its season early last year. They didn't even make it to December due to low numbers and some ineligibility things. They just won 2 or 3 games, I think, on the season. They've already surpassed that amount, and we're only halfway through November. The team is 4-1 on the year, and this is a team that I hope that fans and listeners keep an eye on, because in those 4 wins, they've broken the fewest points allowed in program history, not once, but twice. They defeated Division I Connors State College, a team that NPC lost to them by 58 points last year. They got them by double digits on the road. And earlier this week on Wednesday, NPC took down the number 15 team in the country, Dallas College Richland, by double digits. This is a team that Coach Eddie Broughton has had a long time to go and handpick and recruit. This team is likely the best women's basketball team in program history, and we're only 2 weeks into the season.
But that just goes to, not only recruiting, Mark, but also, you've got to have just a little bit of a dream and looking forward to seeing what can and what will happen. We've seen this not only at NPC's level, but it also around high schools, around schools fixing to lose football or basketball programs. And then you get that one key connection right there that's able to bring people up and rise to the occasion. And you've got somebody right now coaching that obviously has belief in their, his team. And then also NPC, you got to have that also, a school that has faith in the program to keep it around. And they're, it's a key combination between the two of them, Mark. I'd love to say the athletes are doing it, just the coaches doing it, or the school, but it's a combination of them all. And, tipping my hat to that program for them to be able to come back and have a success story this early.
And I've got to tip my hat to Coach Eddie Broughton. He's recruited so well for this squad. You've got state champions from Brownsboro, Texas, Kayla and Kyra Garrett, that have kind of been winning throughout their whole basketball careers. But it's also supplemented by smaller school teams. Blevins is represented this year. Acorn, Caddo Hills, Cossatot River, those very, very small schools hidden deep across Arkansas. And if you really know basketball, and I mean, if you really know girls basketball on the high school level in Arkansas, you know that the brightest stars, the hidden gems, they're hiding in the smallest classifications in the state. Coach Eddie Broughton went and grabbed as many as he could. Look what they're doing now.
Well, they get overlooked, Mark. Obviously, they're not the big 5, 6, 7A schools, where everybody's, piling in to watch them play and stuff, and they get all the notoriety. Look, only 5 can get on the course.
That's
okay?
right.
Only 5. And then if you find that one little diamond out there that, maybe they had a lackluster season at the Costats or whatever the world's, but you had that one that had the no give up kind of attitude and could score, could dribble and drive, and also have the attitude. That's what you want. And there's always those ones that have the 2-20 record.
Yes.
But you have that one giving 15 points every game and leading the team. And if you do your research right, you're exactly right, Mark. That's that one diamond in the rough that you want. And he somehow combined them together to make a successful story so far.
We're going to work to try to get Coach Eddie Broughton Sr. on the program in the coming weeks here on Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition. Also want to tip my hat and congratulate Coach Corey Irvine on a great season for Nighthawk men and women's soccer. The Nighthawks unfortunately fell in the postseason last week. The men were on the road in Champaign, Illinois, falling to the Cobras of Parkland College, and the women also falling last Friday against St. Charles Community College in St. Louis. Great seasons, winning the Region 2 championship again on both sides for another year. They're going to hang more banners in the kettle, but in the postseason just got stumbled up against some really tough competition.
Yeah, and Mark and I say this lightly. I'd love to have him on the show too if we could.
Okay,
we just got to have somebody that can talk a little brogue or something, But
I've met with Corey enough this season. I feel very strong.
You can translate.
I will be able to translate thick Scottish for you.
Okay,
and I'm proud to be able to say that.
Okay, I just want to clarify again that you did say Scottish, and boy, oh boy, does he really have that up cheek? And I love it. Don't get me wrong, but. Also, and not kidding around, congratulations to him. What a great success. And, man, I just think that program is going to get stronger and stronger.
Yeah, it is. Winning brings in more talent. We've seen it with men's basketball, like we talked about. People want to come in and play for a winner. What we're seeing evolving right in front of our eyes with the women's basketball team right now, absolutely. Recruits are already starting to pile into Coach Broughton's mailbox. And for the soccer scene, we have so much great local soccer talent as well. We've talked about it almost every single week on this show. Hey, you can stay close to home and continue playing the game you love and hang banners and make yourself, enshrined in Nighthawk lore. Boy, that sounds pretty appealing. So, I would say Nighthawk Nation is thriving as well as it ever has at National Park College. I can't wait to see what they do next. We've got one more segment coming your way on today's show. Don't go anywhere. Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition continues in a moment on 92.9 KVRE.
The fourth quarter coming up.
And we're back. Sports and Shorts Tailgate Edition, 92.9 KVRE and online at kvre.com and on iHeartRadio. He's Tracy Simpson. I'm Mark Oliver. Tracy, I mentioned it was a busy week for me. I had a film premiere on Monday. I did play-by-play on Tuesday. I coached flag football 4 games this week. And on Wednesday, I had the opportunity, the privilege of being invited to participate on a couple different sports media panels for the Ouachita Sports Digital Network's 3rd annual sports media conference at OBU in Arkadelphia. I had a great time. I was able to meet and collaborate with numerous young men and women on the high school level, their faculty, staff, and administrators running their digital media programs, their journalism programs, and of course, sitting on stage with a couple of, very big names really across sports media in the state of Arkansas, like your Nate Olsons, your Eric Taylors, Brian Ramsey. Also had the opportunity to share the stage with Kyle Sutherland of Natural State Sports Sports, and Patrick Netherton of the Northwestern State Demon Sports Network and ESPN Plus fame. Had the opportunity to share about my story on sports journalism and play-by-play, and really deliver some teaching moments, some advice on how to make for a good young sports journalist. Because I remember whenever I was up and coming in this business, I remember people saying, man, that's one of the great young sports journalists of this generation. Well, now I'm kind of approaching 40, so I don't know if I'm necessarily considered young anymore. But I was able to meet some really bright young men and women that are doing some really amazing things on the high school level. I met a young man by the name of Dalton Reed. He's a senior at Magnet Cove High School, and earlier this month, he won the Best Sports Podcast Award at this year's RCast Awards for his podcast, Inside the Huddle with Dalton Reed. He got the chance to go up to Fayetteville and receive that very prestigious award because he's going against numerous Arkansas Razorback podcasts that have been around for years. And just as a bright up-and-comer, still going to class at high school every day at Magnet Cove, I think it says a lot about the future generation of sports journalism. And of course, we've met so many people across our journey, and of course after games we're very often conversing with other play-by-play announcers, like if we're on the road or if other sportscasters come to Fountain Lake, and we're always chit-chatting with everybody. We've been doing this for 15 years just for Fountain Lake, so we've met so many people and networked with so many people and had so many opportunities that come from that. But it was a really great conference. I want to thank Chris Babb and Dr. Jeff Root for the invite, and thank you so much to Ouachita Baptist University for holding a great event. More than 300 high schoolers in attendance from high schools all across the state of Arkansas. I had the opportunity specifically to talk with some great staff members from Bryant High School and Texarkana High School that are looking just to build their programs and get these kids valuable experience so they can send them off to college and help bolster that journey, their careers into the sports journalism world.
Well, there's nothing like it, the up-and-comers of the world, and that we know that, hey, it's secure, that the future is bright, and it looks like, we've got some guys that may be able to come up and help us out at some time, Mark. I'll be honest with you, but that's what's exciting about this kind of business. Look, there's such a diversification and so many different topics in the sports, of course, from track and field to football to, baseball, everything across the board there you can think of. But come together with a common bond right there and doing the announcing and talking about it and then sharing your experiences and the awards that you get and all the accolades. It's something special, and I love getting, because when we started, Mark, these podcasts, it was just starting to,
it's in their infancy, if anything.
And so now it's even building up more and more and more, and we're able to, just to see it in motion and to get the input from, and I say kids because they're kids.
Oh, absolutely.
But to see the future and to see where it's going with this, and to know that everybody out there, look, set your mind on it, then you can do it. And I remember you as a young one coming up, and not a lot about football experience, but boy, you've changed some people's ways, and our viewing audience speaks for itself on Friday nights. But as it is, it's just encouraging to know that, hey, out there's some bright young person that's going to be able to maybe take over my position someday. And it's just good to know, hey, look, it's strong. The business is strong, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, everybody that does what we do is extremely passionate, and they know that it's not an 8-to-5 job. It never has been. It never will be.
No,
and so it's nice to know that, even long after we're done, if we ever hang up the mic, I can't even envision that day. But I do know that whenever that day does come, I think, sports media, especially here in the state of Arkansas, we're going to be just fine. We'll be just fine.
Here, look, Mark, I love the times though when you and I've gone to games and not knowing really where we were going to be calling the games from. Sometimes it's a challenge.
Yes. Oh yes,
and we've just sort of made it happen, so to speak. And I think that little guessing game sometimes just encourages you to keep going and trying at it. But some of those experiences we'll be talking about for years, and I hope to share those with some of the ones that are coming up. That's going to be fun, man, no doubt about it. But hey, we've got some interesting things going on around the state right now with all these playoffs going on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. High school playoffs for football are in full swing. We'd like to congratulate first the schools of Mountain Pine, Fountain Lake, Cutter Morning Star, and Hot Springs. I know that their season did not end the way that they wanted them to, but they fought really hard. You know, most of those schools were in a transition year coming back in from 8-man football it proved to be quite difficult, not only in Garland County, but across the state of Arkansas. And I know that Hot Springs has to be feeling that sting right now, falling just short. But I'm telling you, this Trojans unit is so close to getting to where it wants to be goal-wise. And you know, it's a journey, and sometimes it takes a little bit more work to get across that finish line. So for those Trojans and their families and their parents listening in, and especially the players, if they're listening to the show, keep your heads up. Keep working. It's not over yet.
Oh, no doubt about that, man. I remember the days, and they will come back. Trojans are alive and well, and you hit it right on the head, Mark. Cutter, Mountain Pine, Fountain Lake. Hey, look, coming back from programs that were almost gone.
Yes.
And to come back and, you know, a little lackluster years, but hey, they're gonna resurge, they're gonna reboot, and they're gonna come back next year and fire at them again. And you know it. And I'll look forward to calling those games again next year. And but we got to also congratulate the teams that did make it.
Your Lake Hamiltons, your Jessievilles, and your Lakesides. Hey, we talked about this in Garland County. Of course, the surrounding listening areas, I mean, Benton and Bryant are doing extremely well.
Bismarck.
And Bismarck may be the talk of the entire state of Arkansas. Not necessarily a Cinderella story. I think to call them a Cinderella story at this point would actually be disrespectful. But this is the team that everybody has their eyes on as the favorite to win the Class 3A state championship. And we talked about, we said somebody in our listening area.
Yes.
Multiple somebodies probably, because Bryant looks like they may take 7A after just defeating Conway. Not even close.
No,
not even close. But you love to see that parity in the game. And of course, as you look at your Lakesides, your Lake Hamiltons, and your Jessievilles, I think they're all going to make some noise in the playoff picture. And what great seasons they've had in some respects, especially on the Lake Hamilton and the Jessieville side. It's really been a good bounce back year for their squads. You remember last year, they were just riddled with injury, and it looks like, man, this might be, over for the program in terms of, the years of success that we've seen, and their window of possibility may be closed. Yeah, not so fast. Great coaching from Coach Tommy Gillerin and TJ Burke to get their squads ready to go. They've won some really big games this year where they were not favored, and they really took care of business this year. And what can you say about Coach Rock and those Lakeside Rams? Boy, they're the talk of the town here in Garland County, probably the strongest team in Garland County now, really for 2 years in a row.
Yep, no doubt about that. And look, it's only going to get better for those guys because they're seeing what potential they have. Now you're getting the kids, not that they already weren't on board, but now you're seeing a lot of these programs sending kids to the next level. And that's always a glimmer in all the kids' eyes. You know what? That's what, of course, they want to do well. And they want to, go to a good school that they want to go to, but to be able to get a, scholarship or something like that, that's always a special. And you're getting a lot of looks for these kids, especially when they're in the playoffs and run deep, in those. And so congratulations to them, and just hope the best for them all.
Of course, basketball season, the balls are bouncing on high school courts, and on future shows, we're going to start bringing in those head coaches to talk about their programs. But that's it for this week's show. Hey, you can text us anytime during the week, 501-915-1300. We're here every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. He's Tracy Simpson. I'm Mark Oliver, and this has been Sports and Shorts, Tailgate Edition on 92.9 KVRE.
Fourth quarter, game over.